Welcome to the Universal Broadcasting Network's Hit Afternoon Show, bringing you the latest in music news, artist interviews, and more. With your hosts, Dair Owens, Justin Tinucci, and Taylor Reyes. This is the Music Project.
Hello, everybody. It's Dair Owens.
And I'm Justin Tinucci.
And I'm going to yell at Sean Lusk because he went to go get coffee.
Yeah, he'll be here in a few minutes.
But
He's
anyway,
on a Starbucks run.
Yeah, he's doing us a favor. Anyway, welcome to the Music Project. This is the 21st of February. We have a lot to talk about today, including our coverage of last week's Grammys. So much going on. But before we talk about that, we have a fantastic guest with us today. Calling all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, we have Mattheww Perryman Jones. How you doing, Mattheww?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic.
It's a beautiful day in LA.
Good.
With limited traffic, which is always
Very limited
nice.
traffic. It was great.
Well, last week we
Nice.
had the
Nice.
LA Marathon, and next week we have the Oscars, so
Oh, wonderful.
it's going to be great.
We rarely
Fantastic.
get a break from
Yeah.
it. So let's go all the way back to the very beginning. How did you get interested in music, and what was kind of the pathway that led you to the music that you play now, and just your inspirations growing up?
Right. It goes way back to high school for me, and for me, high school is actually way back. I played in a band in high school. I kind of always had an interest in music growing up, from whatever my folks were listening to just kind of developing my own taste in music around the age of, 13. I really started getting into music. And anyway, had a band in high school. That's when I got interested in playing music, loved making it, loved writing it. And so that kind of started it, and then I didn't pursue it for a while, and then kind of post-college years, actually, I kind of got back into writing more in a solo acoustic singer-songwriter kind of way, and that's when I kind of started embarking on a career as a singer-songwriter.
So you used to play like folk Americana music, and now you have like kind of a more pop rock vibe. So what was your transition like? How was the evolution process of what made you go from one genre to another?
I've never really stuck with a genre. I've just written music and just kind of whatever comes out at the time, and whatever the songs seem to want as far as like a production direction or anything like that. I've never really thought in terms of the genre. I kind of stay as a singer-songwriter at the core of it. It's all songs that I write, and but style-wise or production-wise, it's just kind of whatever the songs call for at the time. So I happily, since I'm not on a record label and choose not to be, I don't feel like it's necessary to stick with a kind of a genre type approach. So yeah,
That's
I don't know.
great.
It's kind of all. Who knows what the next thing will be?
We hear that a lot, more recently than in the past, that just people are starting to ignore just the concept of remaining in one style and remaining in one genre.
Because at the end of the day, you have to live with the music you make. You have to be content above everyone else. And hopefully, your fans still love it and they follow you. But, the music's yours, so you should keep it yours and do what makes you happy, because you don't want to be stuck doing stuff that you're not content with.
Right. And I think ultimately that's what people respond to at the core of music, is really that, I'm interested in just as a listener, I'm interested in people that are doing what they do. I mean, that resonates with me the most, is if somebody's doing something that feels true. I mean, that's kind of what I respond to the most in music is what feels true, what feels what I can feel. And usually if I can feel it, I think it's probably because it's that the artist can feel it, you know, it's coming from a true place. So I don't know. I just think that's kind of the thing to obey in music is just, like what you said, is just you.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's the only thing that's going to distinguish you from anyone else, no matter what genre you're playing in or what type of music you do. If it is similar to another kind of music, really the only thing that distinguishes you is that it's you making it, nobody else, right? So it's like It's your voice, your experiences that you're translating into music. So, yeah.
I think that's really cool. And, you know, it's funny because we were talking about this, and I think we can officially crown you the king of music placements. You just for people who, you know, aren't aware, you have had songs on Kyle XY, Private Practice, One Tree Hill, Eli Stone,
Grey's Anatomy, Bones,
Royal
Pretty Little
Pains,
Liars,
Switched at Birth,
What to Expect When Expecting,
Intervention, Army Wives.
Could go on and on.
I'm crazy. I honestly found you with your song "Save You," which is, you know, a song that a lot of these placements were on through Spotify, through Discover Weekly, which I say that almost every single week, but it's a trick.
Discover Weekly is a great playlist.
I found great music from there.
Playlist.
But yeah, no, I found that song and I was just like, man, I love this. And so, is there a particular placement that you've had that just it stuck with you? Like you were proud for that to happen?
That's a good question. Let me think about that. Well, I mean, the first one I ever had was back, I think, in like 2007, maybe.
Yep.
With the show Kyle XY. That was my first real
kind of your breakout song.
Yeah, TV debut, and I'd never had a placement before, or TV sync, or as we call it, and that was pretty memorable. I mean, it was kind of funny because, one, I'd never had that experience. So, you know, got the whole family around the TV, and it's like, and then I'm watching this teenage show that I would never have watched ever. Nothing wrong with the show. It just wasn't my deal.
You probably wouldn't even have known what the show was unless you're music.
I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of it before. And so I'm watching, you know, of course it was a season finale, and so it was an hour-long show. We're all sitting around with our popcorn waiting for the song, and you never know how the song's going to be used. Like, you don't really know. You just kind of, and so this was the first time, so we're all watching. I watched the whole show, and the whole show's gone on, and it's about 5 minutes to close, and I'm like, did the song happen? Was it in the car when they were driving? Was it in the background of the party? You just never know how they're going to use it. And I was questioning whether it had even played, or if I got it all wrong. Is this even going to be on the show?
And then it was the big final closer.
Yeah, it was like the grand finale. It was like the very end, and there was no dialogue. So it was like mostly like my song playing, and they played the whole thing pretty much, and I was blown away. I was like, what? This is amazing. So, I mean, certainly that was the most memorable, because it was probably one of the better spots for a song. It's the closing of a season finale show. It's the last thing I hear. So it really did help bring some attention to that song. And of course, the fans of those shows are just rabid with like whatever music is being associated with the show. So, so there was a lot of follow up with that, and a lot of fans, you know, kind of getting into the music from that. So, and then also Jamie Alexander, who was on the show, had reached out to me personally after the show had aired, because they were like, oh, we were really concerned about, you know, how the show was going to end, but your song was great and it really tied in the show. And she sent this really nice email, which was really cool, and I responded to her. And then anyway, long story short, when we decided to do the video, the other funny thing was with Jamie, she did a guest appearance in the show Bones, and it just happened to be the show that she did the guest appearance in, I also had Save You in that show. And so I was like, man, this song is like following you around. Like, you've got to be in the video. So
just whatever thing she books, she just has to let production know, hey, I have this song that has to be in everything I do. So that's kind of part of my package.
Part of the requirement for whatever gig she does. Now she's, I think, a show Blind Spot is what it's called. It's the big show, and she's doing really, really well, which is so cool. But anyway, that was just a cool kind of experience in the way that kind of translated and the way she ended up in the video. So who knows what happens with those things. It's been kind of fun.
That's fantastic.
To do it.
Well, let's go ahead and take a listen to one of your songs. The song's called Wrestling Tigers. What an unusual name. Can you please elaborate a little bit on what the song is about?
Well, the song came about hanging out with a friend in her living room one night, who's also a singer-songwriter. Her name's Kate Tucker. And I just was strumming on the guitar, and I just started singing Wrestling Tigers. I didn't know what the hell it meant, but it kind of felt cool, and then we kept doing it, and then the song turned into a song about just kind of being in a season where you feel like you've kind of lost yourself a little bit, and I guess that's kind of the quickest way to say what the song's about. I usually find out what the song's about in the process of writing it, or even like a year after I've written it.
Yeah, it doesn't connect until you have that feeling.
Yeah, it kind of just felt right, and it felt connected to me in whatever way and whatever I was going through. So that's kind of how it came about, and it just sort of happened. It's just one of those songs.
Awesome. Well, let's take a listen to Wrestling Tigers by Mattheww Perryman Jones.
I'm wrestling tigers, I can't be tamed. The ambulance driver, he knows my name. I told him the last time, this'll be the last time. He said he didn't mind, but this'll be the last time. Now I'm under gun, I'm in a cage, walking a wire. I just did it for fun, got lost in the game, wore out the tires. I'm drunk in a desert, I'm out of my mind, light as a feather. I left my heavy heart behind, but the feeling is fading. This chemical daydream, I guess I just want everything, and nothing can change me. Now I'm under the gun, I'm in a cage, walking a wire. I just did it for fun, got lost in the game, and I'm tired. There is no easy way out and nowhere to stay. I had a reason to doubt there'd be better days. Yeah.
Mattheww Perryman Jones. I love that song. If you have a question and you want to ask it to Mattheww or have us ask it to him, you can tweet us at TMP Music Project on Twitter. We are live tweeting as we go along. So anything you tweet us, we will get and we'll ask for you on your behalf.
So I want to talk a little bit about your history with songwriting, because in addition to being just a performer and a musician, you're also just a very, very active songwriter. You're in the group 10 out of 10, which does like a bunch of collaboration albums and stuff.
And you live in my second home, which is Nashville. So like there's writing everywhere.
There's a little bit of that, yeah.
just a smidge.
So when comparing like studio life and songwriting and traveling and touring and working on the business side of things with like TV syncs and stuff, where would you say your epicenter is? Are you more studio based, or when you write songs, do you think about the live atmosphere?
I'm probably lean more toward the studio side of things. I love the creative aspect of it. I enjoy singing my songs for people. I don't enjoy performing, if that makes any sense. Like, there's the aspect of, or somewhat of some pressure of making a show. And I don't think I am, I don't realize it. It's some closet thing, but I don't consider myself more of a performer type. I actually feel less comfortable in the spotlight part of it. And way more comfortable in a dark studio for hours and hours just creating stuff and seeing what happens. I love that part.
I noticed that when you were talking about how you came up with Wrestling Tigers, and what I found is a lot of writers who are more studio-based will write songs knowing that they can have meaning in the future. They can, like, the meaning can grow over time, and when you start a song, it doesn't have to necessarily be a specific idea, but you can just plant a seed and let it grow however which way it goes, and maybe the first day you work on it you have one idea of how the song is going to end up, but a few weeks later, it's an entirely different thing.
Well, meaning can change, too. I mean, you can start a song about someone specific, and then you break up with your current significant other, and you're like, wait, nope, this song is way more about them than it was who I originally wrote it. You know, so music can adapt, which is important.
I kind of noticed, like, your writing style has kind of changed over time and, like, gone back and forth, and one really unique circumstance was your album in 2012, Land of the Living. That was like a totally different just kind of songwriting idea for you that you had. Like, it was about like high art and philosophy, like Vincent van Gogh's letters to his brother, and like a bunch of different things. So what kind of inspired you to take that different road for Land of the Living?
Well, I would say more than anything, Land of the Living was the record I've always really wanted to make. The process was very intentional in the sense that I approached the songwriting. I felt one with that record, not to sound too whatever mystical about it, but it was one of those records I felt like I had to make. Like, it was just inside of me to make this record, and I had to do it. And so it was just, I was full of it. And so I spent what I felt like was the writing process for that record was like digging. It was like archaeology. It was like I just sat in my studio and I was just digging and digging and digging by just noodling on the guitar, coming up with something, and then something would show up. Like, it's kind of like if you're digging for dinosaur bones and then all of a sudden you get the edge of a dinosaur bone and you're like, oh, there it is. And then you spend the rest of your time kind of forming it out, right? So you're kind of like, okay, there's something here. I'm going to keep digging and kind of form and see what this thing is. And so that's what that record felt like for me in the process. And a lot of times songwriting feels like that for me. It's more like digging and finding something in the process. Because the digging is the work part. It's like getting up, okay, I'm going to work, I'm going to write, I'm going to noodle with something, I'm going to play with an idea. All of that stuff is the digging for me. And then in that process, hopefully you come across something that you're like, oh, there's something that seems cool. I'm going to kind of work around that now. And so that record was very much that for me. And it was coming out of a particular time in my life and certain life experiences that I felt necessary to write about. And man, it was one of the best. It was the best experience I had, especially making a record. It was really, really, and not to sound melodramatic either, but it was really a lot of excruciating work sometimes, just like on a mental level of just like forcing myself to keep writing and working every single day at it. And it was kind of demanding a lot from me personally, and it was really hard in that sense. So, but the making of the record was so great. Like we went to Round Top, Texas, this place in the middle of nowhere, this amazing barn that's now a studio, and I won't go into all that because I could talk for an hour about all that. But
we've got plenty of time.
You got some time. Well, I very intentionally picked the people to work on the record. My really good friend Kason Cooley, who I've known since I've basically lived in Nashville, which is almost 17 years. He's one of my oldest friends here, and I wanted him to produce. He's an incredible producer. He's a great friend. And then all the bandmates were friends or people that I really, really wanted to be a part of it musically. And so we went and isolated ourselves. We went away in this arid little Texas town in the middle of nowhere in August, which was probably the worst time to be in Texas. It was hot, but it was, and the place was haunted, which was kind of cool.
Fantastic. Even better.
Oh yeah, it was like all kinds of stories from that. Again, that's a whole nother footnote. But it was everything about it was such a great experience. I had done a fan funding thing, which I wasn't really sure about doing, but that was a really great experience. Just having the enthusiasm and the support of fans behind that record was really cool. And man, I wish I could do that. I just realized in the process of doing that too, is like getting out of town. Like I didn't want to do it in Nashville, and that's not like a bash on Nashville. Like it's just, there's a lot of great records made here in Nashville, but I just felt like it was important to get out of the comfort zone and get out of sort of the place where, like, you know, I have kids, and so it's like you go home at the end of the day, and it's like, hey, you got, you know, it's just, it was kind of like there wasn't any of that distraction.
But you've also released a lot of music, which I'm sure a lot of it has been done in Nashville. So if you were going for that whole, I want something that's different, and you know, you've already put so much work and time and effort into it. Going somewhere different, you know, it doesn't seem like it would affect you a lot, but it does. You know, I think songwriting and music in general, I think a lot of people kind of put it down. Not they like it, but they don't think of it as being hard work, and it is. It is emotionally exhausting, mentally exhausting. It takes, you know, every part of you to do. And so
absolutely,
songwriters treat it differently than people who, you know, just listen to music for fun, because we know that you need to go get away and go surround yourself with different settings to really get that, you know, what you're looking for.
And it's really cool to hear you kind of talk about your experience without that album, because like a lot of young songwriters who are listening right now, like I know, and I have this curse also as a songwriter and musician. I'm sure, Lauren, you have the exact same thing where you think of whatever you're working on at that current time. You, like, a lot of people think of it as their baby, their everything. And it's cool to hear that, like, you came out with a lot of albums prior to that, and I'm sure they had like really, really touching meanings to you personally as well. But to hear that, like, after amount of time, the one that you always knew you had to make, it wasn't the first one. It was a process to get there. And I think that's really important for a lot of young songwriters to think about is, yes, when you write music, love it and be true and be attached to it, but don't think of it as the one where you have to get everything out. Like, let the fruit grow and let it.
Because even though you love it, other people might not. Like, I mean, I hate to put it that way, but you put all this time and effort.
Sure.
But, you know, the industry is its own magical beast that I will never understand. So it's hard when you put all that time and effort and thinking, oh, will people like it? Will people, you know, whatever.
How did you feel? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, I think that's a really crippling thought anytime you go into making something is whether people will like it or not.
Yeah.
Because it's true. I mean, it's like food. It's like there's a lot of great restaurants in town, and some people are like, hey, let's go here. I'm like, I don't I don't want to eat sushi. I'm not a sushi guy. I mean, I know I would eat sushi in LA. Makes more sense than like landlocked places. But you know what I mean? But the point is that there's just some places that's probably really great quality. Yes. I just don't like it. And so I don't bother too much with like whether people are going to like it or not. And some people get it and they don't get it. I don't. It doesn't really. I can't say that it doesn't matter to me because I'm human. And of course, if somebody's like, "That's the worst thing ever," it's not going to.
It'll affect.
I'm not going to be unfazed. Of course, I have to work through like the ego part of that being a little wounded. But generally, I don't. I practice not really worrying about that.
That's
much
great.
Because it really doesn't matter. If I've made something that I feel is true, that I feel good about, that I feel like I know I've done the work to make it as great as I can, and then I kind of just leave it be. Like it's kind of like, okay, got to put it out there, and whatever it is, it is. And so there's a lot of people, specifically around that record, who have written me emails and still to this day express like how that record has gotten them through some really hard times in their life. Yeah. And even that, even the good stuff, I can't take credit for how a person experiences my music.
That's the magic of the music itself.
Yeah, it's like it's theirs. It's like, and whatever their experience is, it's their experience. I didn't do anything to make that experience. That's them. Like, so good or bad, you know what I mean? It's like the whole, if you get into like the psychology of like relationships, they'll tell you, you know, you never say you make me feel ... because you don't make anybody feel anything. People just feel what they feel, right? Yeah. And so we're not responsible for how people feel. So that applies too with like my music. If somebody comes and says, "Oh my God, your record made me feel blah, 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 blah," it's like, well, again, it's kind of like I'm grateful that my music was able to accompany somebody in some experience, but their experience is theirs. So I kind of leave it at that. It's like whatever their experience is, good or bad, it's kind of like that's other people's experience, and it's none of my business, really. So I just kind of, and you know, and also too, if you get into a thing where people are like, "Oh my God, that was the best thing ever," now you've created for yourself this incredible standard. Yeah. The next time you go into something, which can be completely crippling, and so any of that kind of feedback, then it's good. I think as long as I try to practice just like being thankful for things that are good, and even the things that are bad, like to kind of go, okay, that can be helpful to me. Yep. But ultimately, I can't let anything inform how I'm going to go into something else, because I have to kind of let it go and then just do the next thing. And that might be the worst thing I've ever made in my life. You know? But it's kind of like even in songwriting, you have to let the bad ideas out. We don't, photographers, we see all these incredible pictures that are posted by these photographers. We don't see
it's one of 10,000
hundreds and thousands of others that they took that were total crap.
That's a great point.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Same point with like songwriting and lines and lyrics. And like, oh my God, that line is so great. It's like, yeah, that took 100 really crappy lines to kind of get to that spot, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of ugly process in creating.
People don't see the process that it takes. They only hear the finished product. So they're like, oh, well, it must have been, really easy for them just to go to point A to point B. But they never really see the windy road that you have to travel to get to point A, first of all,
Now, from moving on from Land of the Living with Cold Answer, did you write Cold Answer in Nashville? Did you?
Yeah.
So you went back to Nashville, back into kind of your homeland, your groove. Cold Answer is actually the next song we're going to play, so do you mind just telling us a little bit about that album and about that song itself?
Sure. In brief, that's really just a collection of songs over a span of probably 3 years. It really wasn't like a project in the sense of like, I'm going to write these songs for this record. It was, here's some songs that I've written over the last few years that seem to have a thread about them. And somehow it worked in kind of putting the EP together, that all the songs seemed to fit a thread, even though some of them were written, a year apart from each other. So that was kind of I recorded it with different producers in town. So there's not one producer for all the tracks. It's a bunch of different ones. And again, it seemed to still have a thread. And then I wrote the songs with different songwriters. So it wasn't just like stuff that I was sitting and writing. It was stuff that I collaborated with other people and put together. And so Cold Answer is a song I wrote with a really great writer in town. Her name's Caitlin Rose. And that was a really cool writing experience because I was writing at her house. And again, it's kind of like the noodling phase of just, I love to just sit and have a melody come up and just kind of start developing a melody and some words that kind of might make sense or might not. And then she had a stain on her ceiling, and we were writing, and she said, we should just write something about that. And so there's a line in the song about, you can't get the stain out of the ceiling unless if you don't know where the waters comes from, or something like that. I don't know if I'm quoting my own song right, but it just was fun. She's a really creative writer, and just to be able to kind of get out of like whatever headspace and go, okay, there's a stain on the ceiling. What can we write about that? And it's my favorite line in the song. I love that line, and so that was just a cool writing experience with Caitlin Rose, and that's where that song came from.
Awesome. Well, let's take a listen to Cold Answer by Mattheww Perryman Jones.
Remember saying all the places we'd go once we found the road to take us there. But we spent too much time waiting by the window and ended up not going anywhere. Never thought you'd be the kind for leaving. Bet you always thought I'd be the one to run. Yeah, but you can't get a stain out of the ceiling when you don't know where the water's coming from. There's a room in everyone where a cold answer can be found. And if a word can knock down a wall, then this house is just a box on the ground. Wonder if we're speaking the same language. Nothing I hear makes much sense at all. And I can't ever shake this foreign feeling, and you could never tell me what it's called. There's a room in everyone where a cold answer can be found.
back on the Music Project. That was Cold Answer by Mattheww, Perryman Jones. Follow us on Twitter at TMP Music Project. We are tweeting live. We just sent out an awesome selfie.
If you have any questions, we will respond to them live and ask Mattheww himself.
Yes, we will.
So Mattheww, I'm sure you're pretty frantic right now because you're about to go on tour with Angel Snow in the UK. Have you ever toured the UK before?
I have. I was there a couple years ago with Mindy Smith and loved it. It was so great.
You excited to go
experience.
back?
Yeah. I mean, it's been when I was there last time, I was surprised I hadn't been there before. The last time I'd gone with Mindy, and was really just blown away, surprised at just how familiar people were with my music, and that was pretty cool and a big surprise. And also just the audience in general was just felt different. I don't know if that's because I'm in a different country, and of course there's just an element of maybe somewhat of a romantic, feeling about it all. But generally, people seemed to really give an opportunity to kind of do what you do and to see whether it resonates with them. And thankfully, it seemed to do that, and which was great. And I think right now too, like especially in England, there seems to be a real love for American music, like Americana music, and songwriters. There seems to be a real hunger for that, and so it just seemed to be a really good time to be out there. And so coming back made a lot of sense.
And we have hunger for.
Snow's really great too.
Yes.
We have hunger for British bands here.
Yes, we do.
True,
We're
very
having
true.
the second British invasion.
Would you say the environment is different over there, like just the fan base, or like would you say the fans are different in the US from in the UK?
Yeah, well, I think there's not as much, and I could be completely wrong. This is just my perspective. It seems like there's not as much saturation over there as there would be in the States.
Yeah.
And like sort of kind of too much of everything. It's like that's kind of, we have that problem, is we have too much of everything. And we're overstimulated. We're overwhelmed.
Especially in the hubs, like Nashville, LA.
Yeah, I mean, the music cities and stuff like that, where it's like there's so many people playing, there's so many bands coming out with a new thing. It's like, man, it's like so much, and it's overload.
Yeah.
And so that's why it puts more on artists these days to really like do something that's going to kind of just stand out and get people's attention, really. And that's really the thing, is getting people's attention. There's a lot of great music out there, and there's a lot of really remarkable, completely unknown songwriters that are better than anything that's out there, that will probably never be heard because they're not attention getters. But their music is better. But it's just that's the world we live in now. It's like whoever's getting the most attention, gets the most attention, and then we sort of convince ourselves that that's what's great. I don't know. I could go off on that. It's a whole different point. But
it's crazy.
I know what you're saying, and we're going to talk about this, I think, in a little bit when we cover our little Grammy thing, because I have some beef with the Best New Artist award, but I'm not going to talk about that right now.
But who was the Best New Artist?
Meghan Trainor.
Meghan Trainor won, and nominated was James Bay, Tori Kelly. I forget the other two, but that's kind of what you're saying.
Wow.
Whoever is popular is kind of what they consider to be the best.
Freaking 1989 over To Pimp a Butterfly.
I didn't necessarily agree, but I get what you're saying. I don't want to trash any artists because I think all music is wonderful and a great outlet for everyone. But I had some problems with that.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. That actually puts the finger on it. And I was actually talking to a friend about this recently, is that we live in a culture where we are told what to like, and we just do it. It's like, this is the new big thing. Listen to it. It's great. And we're kind of sold because we live in this overly commercialized culture. And that's what because we don't want to take the time to really find what we really like. we just get told we'll just open the magazine. Okay, that's the biggest thing. I'm going to listen to that, right? It's kind of like we generally, not everybody obviously, but I think the general way is that we just kind of whatever's got the front cover of the magazine or the new thing or whatever, is that what we're told that's what we should like. We don't have the time. We don't want to take the time to invest in really discovering things. I think that's the difference between. And this is not American bashing or England glorifying or anything like that. It's just the general sense. It's like people there go, I want to find out what I like. Yeah. There is a kind of suspicion about anything that is highly marketed, because I think I just think that's generally how the feeling is. It's just like there's a suspicion to marketing, and rightfully so. I mean, if you want to be a really like grown up and a little more sophisticated about your thing, is take the time to investigate and find what you really like, and be suspicious of anything that's telling you it's the new big thing or the new best thing, rather. And so I think that's slightly the difference in terms of the general spirit, and not to say that doesn't exist over there too. I know it does, but it seems to be generally how we operate here in the States is just kind of being marketed to a lot.
Yeah, just to clarify, because I agree 157,000%.
57,000.
I had to be specific. Our handy dandy board runner just pulled up a list, and for those who are curious, the other people who were nominated for Best New Artist were Courtney Barnett, Sam Hunt, James Bay, Tori Kelly, and Megan Trainor, who won. That's just my little beef. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. So
we have another song from you here
called "Can't Get It Right," and then we have one or two more questions, and we'll finish this off. But let's go ahead and take a listen to "Can't Get It Right."
Right on.
If we can get it to play.
You just can't get it right.
I don't even know where I'm going. I don't really care where I've been. I just wanna taste the moonlight. I just wanna drink it in. Drifting into silence, I feel this tightening in my chest. I'm reaching out for something that I already missed. Oh, I want a love that can get me through another restless night. Stay, go, whatever I do, I just can't get it right. I just can't get it right. Counting up the lines on the highway like I'm counting my regrets. I'm wrestling the angels and the devil's in my head. I left you without warning, no note beside the bed. I pray you can forgive me, I hope you can forget. Oh, I want a love that can get me through another restless night. Stay, go, whatever I do, I just can't get it right. I just can't get it right. Night. Stay, go, whatever I do, I just can't get it right. I just can't get it. Oh, I want a love that can get me through another restless night. Stay, go, whatever I do, I just can't get it right. I just can't get it right.
they keep the end. So my last question I really want to focus and talk about is you have a sync right now on a show I love called Quantico. One of your songs has been on their new promo for like the last 10 weeks. And it was crazy because I've been watching this promo. I had no idea it was you. And then when we were in talks about,
Getting you on the
show, he's like, oh yeah, he has a current sync on Quantico. I'm like, wait.
Oh, that guy.
That song. So
Okay, we'll let him in.
Yeah, he's got some stuff. No, but we talked about syncs a little bit earlier on, and how Quiet XY was the first one you did back in 2007, I believe. This one is very different though because it's not necessarily a TV show. It is the promo, which has been playing for weeks since December.
Right.
Yeah. How has the reaction been off that? Have you gotten any traction from that promo?
Not really, because like you said, nobody would know it's me. It's not like at the end of the commercial they say music by Mattheww. Perryman. That would be great if they did that. But
they should make a law saying that.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I guess you could. What is it when you like put the thing up to it? Is it Pandora or something?
That's where I find most of my music. In all honesty,
what is it? Is it
Shazam?
Oh yeah, Shazam. Yeah, where you can Shazam it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much traction has come of that in terms of like attention to the song or to me as an artist, because like I said, there's no real promo from me as the artist singing the song. But we've just done our own what we can do to kind of let people know where to find the song. So we do stuff like on YouTube, which is where a lot of people look for that stuff. Is they'll go to YouTube. So we have a YouTube thing that has a link to the where they can get the song and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully it's done some of that. But that was a song written specifically for that. It was not like they picked a song of mine that they felt fit. There was a brief. They said we need a song that sounds like this, and we went in the studio and stuck with a certain theme and words and kind of I don't know if that demystifies the process, but that's more of the crafty part, I guess, of songwriting and of doing that. Is like when you go, okay, I think I can make a song that create a song that sounds that way and that feels that way, and that I would hopefully think is cool by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that happened. And I was really, really blown away because we did it. It was the first time I'd worked with this production company. And it was our first thing we got, which was really cool. So I was really, really thrilled about that.
I love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much for spending. We're actually gonna have no time for our Grammy talk because you are so interesting. Like I love listening to you just talk about music in general. I think it's very, very fascinating. So we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Get back to packing for your flight tomorrow.
Yes, exactly.
Go get some sleep.
We leave tomorrow in the morning. So.
And hopefully when I'm in Nashville this summer, you'll have some show so I can come watch you because you are fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on your show.
Of course. All right, guys. I'm Dair Owens.
I'm Justin Tinucci.
I'm Sean Lusk.
And this has been The Music Project. See you guys next week.
In the future, talk radio will actually